let's do this. So I wanted to just read some stuff around the topic that we are going to be talking about. Just run through some stats as I always do. That's quite interesting. It is quite interesting.
Stats are always interesting.
Yeah, because and I think that the combination of stats with words has become a mind boggler for me. So I found that it says that in South Africa, this is going to be a good word. 60% of people, of employees, actually understand what is in their employment contracts.
Are we going back to employment contracts?
No, we're not. I'm just using that. I'm using that as a setup.
Understand what's in their contract.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring that up is because obviously, then 100% of those people agree to what's in there, to agree to do this job, right? So you give me a contract, I agree. I have zero clue. I really don't understand what's in here, but I'm just agreeing to it. So I wanted to talk about agreements and how people go into agreements, not just in the workplace, but everywhere in life without really understanding what it means.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. As always, I am your host, Suleman, and today I am joined by the lead processor at Uncovering Greatness and probably one of the top processors on planet Earth, Nicole Mitchell. Nicole, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you, Suleman. It is good to be with you today. And welcome to all our viewers. So we'd love to get feedback on the call, on the podcast.
Yes.
So please feel free to type in questions, comments as you're listening to the podcast. We'd love to get feedback from you.
Oh, so I actually did get some feedback about last week's episode that we did. There was a comment from somebody named Dave, and they said that even though it may have seemed as though it was all over the place, he completely understood what we were talking about.
Oh, wow. That's always good to know.
I was like, oh, thank goodness. I feel like we both walked away from that one going, there was stuff there, but I wasn't really sure if it worked. So that was good.
So, good. So somebody was in agreement that our podcast was good.
Yes.
And that has made sense.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
100%.
I'd love to know who wasn't in agreement with it. But I guess people who started listening and didn't finish, so they didn't get the whole set of it. You'd have to listen to the whole concept, the whole podcast to get the full.
Yeah, it's a beautiful mishmash. You can't listen to it in one.
You have to listen to the whole thing too, especially last week's one.
Yeah, everyone I was editing it, I was like, oh, these clips are so out of context. Please go watch the full episode so you can understand. But, so I don't know if you guys have picked up. Today we are talking about agreements. An interesting topic.
It is, again, a very, very broad topic that you can go into for days on end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose, what are we going to agree on today?
We can agree that we're going to stay on one topic.
Okay, good.
And we will unpack it. And also, if you guys have noticed, what we also like to do, what I like to do is get definitions of words, because I think that's very, very important. And I was listening to the radio this weekend, and somebody was talking about how words are so important, and then went on to say a word that they just invented.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, so clearly words aren't that important if you're just making up words now, because that word doesn't exist. But okay. So the word we are defining today is agreement.
Okay, so agreement, according to the Knowledgism Dictionary by Alan C. Walter, is defined as unanimity of opinion. And then he goes on to say that agreement was the product of telepathically projected holographic images or mock-ups being fused together with another or others telepathically projected holographic images or mock-ups. Agreement is the basic building block of creating reality. For anything to come into being in the physical universe, it must be agreed upon. And this is why it's such a broad topic, because it's for something to come about into reality, it needs to be agreed upon. So COVID is the best agreement, the best example of agreement, because reality is not truth. Okay. So through COVID, it became, everybody agreed that if you wanted to buy or sell something, you had to wear a mask.
Yes.
Okay. That is not the truth. Okay.
You,
truth is you can buy or sell something without a mask.
Yeah.
But the reality that people were living in is that I'm not going to talk to you or deal with you or do anything with you unless you are wearing a mask.
Okay.
The reality is everybody's going to get sick and die.
Yes. But it's not the truth.
It may not necessarily always be the truth.
Got you.
But people went into agreement that that's what would happen. Okay. So the agreement then became, I'm not going to come near you unless you've sanitized your hands. You can't walk into a building without sanitizing your hands.
Yeah.
You can't do X, Y, or Z without a mask. You can't do this. You can't do that. So people went into agreement with all these things and not necessarily understanding the effects of it.
Of the agreement.
Okay. So, there were people that didn't go into agreement with it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I'm not going to wear a mask. Or some people that got, and again, all of this is perceptions and our opinion. It's not necessarily truth. It's not gospel and cast in stone. These are examples.
Yeah. Yes.
So we put that disclaimer up there.
Every week.
So there were people who decided that I'm not going to quarantine if I get sick.
Yeah.
There were people who said, well, I'm just going to walk around it. And some people went into agreement with them. That's okay for you to do. And other people said,
Stay away from
me. Yeah. I can't do. But people went into agreement on different things. And that's what created so much upset in families, because the agreement was not necessarily discussed, but people agreed that you have to get the vaccine, you have to wear a mask, you have to do this, you have to do that. And then the other person said, but I don't agree with that. And then families divided, friends divided. I want to say unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Because I don't think all of it was necessary. But there was this division amongst people because they didn't go into agreement with each other.
So with what you're saying, that, because let's just, if we go with vaccines, for example, the reality was that you had to get a vaccine for whatever reason. The truth was you didn't have to get a vaccine.
So today you can travel without a vaccine.
Yeah.
You don't need a vaccine to get on an airplane or to get in a car and drive across the border. You don't need the vaccine to do that.
Yeah.
However, the world went into agreement that you had to have a vaccine in order to travel.
Yeah. It's a great example, actually.
And so people then couldn't travel. So if you didn't have the vaccine, you therefore couldn't travel.
Yeah.
And because the world went into agreement with, this is the way it's going to work.
That's interesting that you can go into a global agreement.
So now bring it back down to what you said. 60% of employees don't understand. They agree to a contract they don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening is the world has come to the agreement that you need a contract and you have to sign the contract in order to get paid.
Yes.
So people are going, well, I don't have a choice. I have to sign the agreement because that is their belief that I have to agree to this whether I do or don't agree, I have to sign it. So I'm not even going to bother reading it.
Yeah. And you get, yeah, because, and now you can't actually deliver on what you agreed on because you never understood what you needed to deliver on in the first place.
Well, there was no agreement.
What do you mean?
But because I just said yes, I didn't necessarily agree to it. I just said yes. So that's what's happening with employees is people are saying yes.
But they don't agree.
They don't necessarily agree to it, but they're saying yes. So let's use the example of a sales rep. I employ a new sales rep.
Yes.
Okay, this is what I expect you to do. I expect you to make cold calls. I expect you to make phone calls. I expect you to go out and see people. I expect you to follow up. I expect you to do all of these things that a typical sales rep would do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the sales rep goes, yeah, I can do all those things.
Yes.
Cool, I'm in. Of course I'm in. Yeah.
No problem.
And you're going to pay me, right? Yeah. And you say yes. And the agreement is you deliver on this and I'll pay you.
Yeah.
But you don't know that I have no idea what a cold call is.
I just agreed to the job.
So I have no idea what your process is on how to follow up with customers. But yes, I'll follow up.
Yeah.
Okay, now follow up is just send a WhatsApp, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
But in your mind, a follow up is you call the client, you WhatsApp the client, you email the client, and you do it 3 times.
Yeah. You get full confirmation, for example, from the client.
Whereas in my mind, a follow up is just I'll send the client an email or a WhatsApp, and I do it once, and if I never hear from them again, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And because of, let's just say, you need to employ a certain person in your organization because of BEE or you need points or whatever, you go, well, that's the best person out of a bad lot, so I'll agree to employ them.
Got you. Because I need to get whatever I need to get out of it.
I have to get points. I have to, my, whatever the ownership of the company says, I need to employ this many people of that race, color,
So you just
sex. So now you then come and you employ me. You agree to employ me even though you don't want to. You're not actually in agreement with it. Because you know that I'm not going to be able to deliver what I promise.
Yeah.
So you're technically not in agreement with it, but you do it anyway.
So it's a reluctantly I do it. I don't agree to it, but I'm reluctantly doing it because I have to.
I have to.
I feel like that then comes down to how many people take on things. I think we were speaking about it in our meeting. You take on things that you're not supposed to take on because you feel like you have to. When the reality, not even, see, that's, now you got me. The truth is you don't have to.
Correct.
There is no, because even if you then look at it, your agreements, so let's just say me, for example, my agreements within my employee contract, none of those, that is not there. Therefore, I don't have to do this. I can choose to do it. It's a different story. And it's interesting because I also read that it said verbal agreements is considered legal.
Yes.
That's crazy to me. Because I can agree to, we can have a conversation. I can agree to it. You'd be cool. A week later, I can say, I never said that though.
But I recorded you.
Okay.
So now we have proof
Of the agreement.
that you said yes. So now it's legal because I recorded you.
Interesting. So you'd help. So now you need a lot of backup. You need a lot to really back up. I feel like to back yourself up when it comes to agreements. Like if you now have to sit and record me.
It's such a vast topic, and let's just go back to agreements because
Yeah.
it is very challenging. Is people are doing things that they don't agree to,
Yeah.
but they're doing them because they feel they have to, or they're forced into it.
Because your boss said you have to.
Your boss said, so I may not agree with you, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is where it's important for people to understand, are you agreeing to something? Are you doing something because you agree to it, or are you doing something because you have to do it? And are you making it clear? I don't agree with you, but I will do it anyway.
That's a way to make it clear.
Yes.
I agree
But
with
how many people are doing that?
No, I don't think people are doing that at all. It's just my opinion. I just think people are doing it for the sake of they're doing it, but they're not telling you that I disagree with what you're saying.
Correct.
And then that causes, because you now think that I'm agreeing.
Correct.
Because I said I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Do you then think that that's why things don't get done?
So it's one is why things don't get done, because people just go yes. They don't actually agree. They don't agree with it, so they just go yes. So they do it half-heartedly because they're not in agreement with it.
Okay.
Or they just don't do it.
Yeah.
Or they'll do it with very begrudgingly, but they don't say anything. Instead of, I understand this is what you want me to do. I don't agree with it, but I respect you. I will follow the instructions and I will do it.
Mm.
And when you can communicate that, and if we go back to, my thoughts are going in a million different places. So it's just, a lot of people don't agree to it, but if you can communicate it, it makes a big difference. Okay. But if we go back to employees not understanding what's in their contract, they don't even know what the contract says, and they agree to it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I don't understand this, what does this mean?
Why do you think people don't do that?
Because they're terrified to ask. Because if I challenge you, you'll say, sorry, I'm not interested, I'll find somebody else. I'm not going to work with you.
So then that's like a form of sort of like just somebody using their power or manipulation, right? Because now I can't ask, we generalize it, we're not saying that that's what happens, but like I can't ask you a question of something I don't understand. So you put something in my contract, I don't understand this, Nicole, can you explain it to me? And you're like, no.
How can you should know better.
Yeah.
Like,
there's
that fear of, if I ask, I'll look stupid.
Yeah.
And I don't want my boss to think that I'm stupid, so I'm not going to ask.
And you just go into agreement.
And so I go into agreement that it's, I don't know, so I just say, yes, I'll do it. That yes, I agree to all these terms.
Yikes.
And of course, then when it comes to, 7:00 on a Sunday night and you're phoning me and I don't answer my phone, and I go, well, I never agreed to that. No, it's in your contract that you will answer your phone.
Yeah, I didn't see that part. I just signed.
And this is where it becomes challenging, because people do go into agreement, or people look. This is the other thing I see in the workplaces. People look for agreement, and we're all guilty of it, myself included. So I use the example of, let's say, so this morning the meeting wasn't great, hey? And, Michaela didn't talk very nicely to me. Don't you think she was rude?
I do.
I just got agreement.
Yeah.
So now I've got a buddy to go to war with Michaela because she didn't talk very nicely. Instead of you saying, not my business, not interested, what happened between the two of you is your problem.
You should go
direct to Michaela if you've got a problem with Michaela.
Yeah, you didn't like the way she spoke. Just go tell her yourself.
Well, I actually think she was quite right to talk to you like that.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah.
We just come.
As long as I'm not in trouble, I'm not the problem. So therefore, I will agree with you.
Yes.
Because yep. What she said, because maybe there was also a part of it where she said something to me that I didn't like. But it wasn't that big. But we then come together and agree that it's this big thing and she's doing worse. Yeah. It's easier to blame somebody else.
Yep, it is. Much easier, and it's easy to go to into agreement. So I use Entrepreneur Hangout, for example.
Yep.
We had a great event. The room was hot. But, some people went into agreement with at least the room was warm and we could hear.
Mm-hmm.
And other people were going, no, the issue, it was the windows being closed was such a win. That worked.
Okay.
And then I come in and I go, no, it didn't work.
Yeah. It was hot.
It was hot. No, but it's winter. And so people start disagreeing. And, it's important to understand, are you in agreement with what we're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
The agreement in our rooms typically is,
They say that. Well,
our rooms should be cold. And that's not ice cold, but they should be below room below
room temperature.
what's a comfortable room temperature. Okay, so in the middle of winter, room temperature is like not 5 degrees. It needs to be warmer than that.
Yes.
But it's just, typically our rooms are set at like 16 to 18 degrees.
Yeah.
In any events. And I can guarantee you that room,
That was easily 24, 25.
it
was hot.
was warm.
It was hot.
And so we can either go into agreement with warm is comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
or we can go into agreement with cold is better because people learn.
Or, that would make me then think of what is for example, like what's the paper agreement? What does it say in the process? It's cold is better. Cold is where we play at. I mean, we even have it. For like a sales explosion, we even tell people to bring a jersey.
Correct. It's in all our...
It's the process trumps all.
The room will be
feelings.
cold, so please make sure you bring a jersey.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. And I think we spoke about it and when we did speak about it on Thursday, it clicked for me because I was like, yeah, I'm warmer. It's easier for me to sleep. When I'm colder, it's harder for me to sleep.
And so people are more awake when it's cooler. Therefore, they learn better. And I always think of, we used to go to some trainings with a guy, and he always used to say, read for 15 minutes a day. And he said, you know what I used to do? He said, I used to strip naked and go and stand against a cold window and read for 15 minutes because otherwise I'd fall asleep. But leaning on the cold window
Keeps you.
made me stay awake. So I learned. So if you have to do that, that's how you read your 15 minutes a day. And, I'm not going into agreement with stripping, but I am going into agreement with when you are cold, you will stay awake for longer.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it means you can learn more. If you're awake, your mind is more active. And so, people come into our rooms, and the first thing they always do is ask us to turn the aircon
off. Yep.
It's cold in here.
Should we turn the aircon up?
And so it's just understanding that we don't go into agreement with the room being warm.
Yes. We don't. Because there is a very clear process. So would you then say there's an agreement already that we have in place that we just need to follow?
As the team
Yes.
who sets up the room with the speaker, we have an agreement that the room stays cold. Okay, that is in place. As people come in, they try and break that agreement. And they go, oh, no, it's freezing in here.
Yes.
You have to turn the temperature up. And people come in and try and break the agreement.
I would imagine that happens a lot with teams, right? But especially with the new person that comes in.
So a new person comes in. So this is where I was talking about Michaela this morning. So, I don't like the way she spoke to me. I'm going to get as many people into agreement that I'm right and she's wrong.
Yes.
And that's what happens in teams, is we try and get people into agreement with us.
Yeah, then that's
So
these alliances are formed. It's not it's actually a negative thing. It's not really. You're not going into agreement on something positive.
Well, depending on what you're going into agreement with, but most people are not even aware that they're going into agreement.
Oh, well.
Because I just say to you, Michaela was a bit offish this morning, wasn't she? And you go, yeah, I also thought that.
I don't have to say a word, I agree with you. I can just say,
yeah.
I saw that.
And whether you saw it or not, you're probably going, oh, that makes sense now. And then, then you go to the next person and go, Did you notice Michaela was like offish this morning? Like, and then they go, yeah, da 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 da. And suddenly you've got everyone in agreement that Michaela's offish. Okay. Whether she is or not is irrelevant.
It is.
We just got everyone into agreement that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe Michaela was trying to get everyone into agreement.
With being off.
With being off. Oh, you know, that's such a rough week. And, you know, all of these things happened, blah, 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 blah. And so I, you know, that's why I didn't get my work done. And I'm feeling sorry for myself. And then she's trying to get everyone into agreement that, whoa, shame, poor Michaela. She had a rough week. It's okay.
And that one happens even easier. Because now all of a sudden, yeah, I'm also tired. And, you know, my week last week was also quite hectic. And it may have not been. It may have actually been quite a normal week. But because you've now brought it into my space and you said, hey, this is where I'm at. You know, I know it's Monday, but I just had a rough weekend. I'm so tired. I was so busy. Then I'm also like, yeah, I was also busy. I was also tired. Yes, cool. Let's go on to this week and be nonsense because it's easier for us to do that, right?
And so it is. It's easier for us to go into agreement that life sucks and it's hard and it's okay. That's why I didn't do my stuff.
And now you're looking for somebody else to join you.
To go into agreement with you because I don't want to be the only one that
didn't do the stuff. Yeah. I hope you didn't do your stuff as well. Oh, you didn't. Great. It's not our fault because we had other things to do that were put on our plate. And then that's how the whole thing of, I feel, the verbal agreements come into play. Because Nicole actually asked me to go and get a card reader when I was supposed to be making phone calls.
Yep.
So it's on Nicole that I didn't get to make my phone calls.
Because she made me go and get a card reader. Instead of you saying, sorry, can't get the card reader, I'm busy, I've got phone calls to make.
Yeah.
But I looked for an agreement for me to not make my calls.
And that's actually the step
see,
back. Yeah.
And it's so easy to go into agreement without even realizing that that's what's happening.
That's crazy.
And people do it all the time. They're not even aware of it. And that's where you need to be clear on what is your mission. What is it that you want? And what are you going into agreement with?
So how do you, in a team, right? How do you fix that? So how do you fix people creating those types of agreements? Like we gave the example of like Michaela's in a bad mood or whatever.
Well, and this is where you use accountability because what are you accounting for? Like in terms of Michaela, you said you would do X, Y, and Z. Why hasn't it been done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's 3 strikes and you're out.
So that's, yeah, you said that you're going to do something.
What are the consequences?
Yeah.
You know, and this is what happens in teams is there's no consequences. So shame if you're feeling sick. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry.
Right.
And there's no consequences. But what are the consequences? Well, you're going to get fired. You're going to get a warning. You're going to get, and it's something that, yeah, in different countries in the world, like I just know, like my brother lives in America, and you know, if you don't do something, you can get a warning today and you can get frog marched out the building the same day and get fired.
So I can get my warning and fired at the same time?
Yes.
Whoa.
So
you don't have that, yeah.
If you get a boss that doesn't like you, or in certain countries, you can get let go that day. But now here in South Africa, the laws are for employees.
Yeah.
So you've got to give them, you know, there's a whole process you've got to
verbal,
go through.
then 3 written, and then you also through that you've got to show if you actually try to help them get better, and if you didn't, then you can let them go.
Correct. So there's a whole process here. So, but in other countries in the world, there's consequences. If you don't do what you're told, goodbye, take your stuff and leave.
Because that's what you agreed to.
Correct.
I feel.
And so in South Africa, typically people have agreed to shame poor employee. And I think it's one of the problems affecting the unemployment rate, because why would I want to employ people that are not prepared to do what they get asked to do, and then it's going to take me 3 months to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because
Fair.
I can't hold them accountable. Whereas if you come in and you don't do your job and I fire you straight away, I can bring somebody else in and I can find, and yes, I may cycle through people, but I'm going to find people that want to work.
Yes, you're probably more likely getting close to finding the right person than.
But also I'm going to, people that come in are going to want to work. They have to work. They're in agreement that if I don't do my job, I'm going to get fired. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Whereas here, the average person, it's like, well, I just want to get paid.
Yeah. I mean, that's fascinating because I think I did tell you about this before, and it was next to one of the posts that we have out now, which is still getting feedback. Thank you very much for the feedback. I appreciate it. But a lot of small business owners are talking about exactly that, and a lot of them have reached the stage of, I'm not hiring people anymore. I've got the 2 people that I've worked with when I started. I've tried to hire people. I've had to pay people for 3 months who did nothing, and all of a sudden they've lost. I want to feel as though they've lost faith in being able to hire people and grow their team and grow their business, and that's like, yeah, it's actually super sad.
But it is sad, and I just look in. I'll take 2 examples that we've had recently. One was, we went to breakfast for Mother's Day, and clearly the person who was serving us hadn't been trained.
Okay.
So she had not been trained. It was obvious because the very first thing Barry ordered was an almond latte.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she said, what?
So she didn't know what it was.
And she asked 3 times what it was.
Yeah.
And then she took out her notebook and wrote it down. And then she came back and she said, I'm sorry, we don't do that. We've run out of almond milk. So, okay. Then she took our order of, it was, let's say it was 2 fried eggs, piece of toast, whatever, like a farmhouse breakfast or whatever. She wrote it down and off she went.
Yeah.
And I had a chuckle because I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting to see what type of eggs I got. Are they going to be soft? Are they going to be medium? Or are they going to be hard? Because she didn't ask. Then when she brought, off she went, and then she watched her on the computer, and then she came back, and she came back to me first, and then she asked me, how would you like your eggs? Mm-hmm. So I told her, and then off she went, and then she typed on the computer, and then she came back, and she said, sorry, what kind of toast would you like? Off she went. And then she came back, and then she had to ask the next person.
Oh, she's doing it individually.
Because she hadn't been trained from it. Then she came, and she put the stuff down, okay, the food down.
Yeah.
And she put it over here. So first of all, when she put the coffees down, instead of putting it down like in front, yeah, she put it like to the side over there.
Oh, so all of them were on one side.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you just pick your coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Then when she put the food down, she put the food over here, in between the 2 of us. So it was like, whose food is it? And she also, like, she bought stuff and she put, like, the one coffee, she gave it to Barry. And then Barry kept looking at it going, there's something, this is not what I ordered. And he kept looking at it, and then he tasted it. And then she brought the next lot of coffee and she put it down and she gave it to someone else. And then he asked her, he said, I ordered a black coffee, like an Americano, because you didn't have an almond latte. So, and she goes, no, that's yours. And Barry goes, I don't think this is mine. And then off she went, and then she came back. She goes, oh, sorry, this is a cortado or whatever. But she wasn't even aware of what she was serving. And she didn't know where to put the plates. She didn't know. And I actually felt sorry for her because she had not been trained. So she'd been set up to fail.
Yeah.
And, it was at Emperor's Palace. So it wasn't a small little coffee shop somewhere where there was 10 different waitresses
Yeah.
standing
Busy.
outside. The restaurant wasn't busy.
Oh, okay.
And I'm questioning, why were there 10 people standing outside? Why was there not somebody working with her,
Yeah.
showing her, explaining to her, this is what you need to do? And this is where I think people get it wrong. They're not training people correctly. So they're in agreement, you're useless.
Yeah, it's done now.
It's done. You're useless. You can't do it.
Can't take orders.
And you can't take orders. You don't know what you're doing. And they go into agreement with, you know, that's not a good waitress.
Yeah.
Instead of being deliberate on, this is how we do things in our restaurant. And
Yes. Yeah.
There's no process of how to bring a new person in.
Yeah, it just seems like
You are going to follow our best waitress for the next 2 weeks.
Yes. Learn the process.
You are going to learn. You're going to learn how to write things down. You're going to learn what they ask for. You're going to learn all these things. This is our system. But instead, we go into all these other things around, and we actually set people up to fail.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not by any means saying that the employee is the problem. More often than not, it's the employer.
Yeah, you just...
But it's both.
Yeah. But
There's the system that's not working correctly too. So...
And it should also be a thing of, I mean, like you're saying, it's both sides, right? Where I feel like she should have also put her hand up and said, look, guys, I'm new here. I have no idea how this works. I mean, just from, if you're going up and down pressing for egg orders, like, clearly, you know.
But it wasn't even a Happy Mother's Day.
You see, she was probably nervous. Like, she was probably terrified of what was going on, because you see, it was also Mother's Day, which meant that more than likely this place could get really busy, and you guys are giving me the first table of the day type of thing. No, that you are setting up to fail. That's not helpful at all.
And so it's understanding, what are you going to agreement with? Are you going into agreement that we are the best restaurant and we train our people and this is how we do it and these are the rules and you will follow those rules? Or you're just going into agreement with, this person needs to learn, they should know.
Yeah, it's sink or swim. I mean, I think about it when I first started here. Like, I had the notion in my head that I was going to be running social media. I didn't post a thing for 6 months. Like, for 6 months, I posted nothing. But I had to learn how things were done. And I had to learn, this is how we do it. This is how it goes. This is how I want it to look, feel, blah, 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 blah. I was set up to succeed. Then I was able to then have an agreement of, can you do that? Yes, I can. Okay, cool. Go ahead and do that. Versus in my head, if I just went and I ran with it, the agreement was going to be off between me and the company, because I was going to have an agreement of what I was capable of doing. And then you're going to ask me, so you can do this? I was just probably going to say yes, because I'm already here. So.
And it's just understanding, what is your agreement?
Yeah.
What is your intention for the person when you bring in new people? And are you sitting them down? And unfortunately, yes, we do have just spoon-feed people.
What?
And that's hard.
You know, the thing is, you say that, and I feel as though that's probably the part that people miss the most. And even the way that you said that, I felt the empathy when you said, we have to spoon-feed people, unfortunately. Or we have to a certain extent.
Correct, to a certain extent. But it's also understanding that, I mean, I've had both examples where somebody comes and goes, how do I switch this on? And then they'll come back 5 minutes later, how do I switch this on? And you've shown them 5 times and they still don't know how to switch something on. Then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you get the other examples, don't show me I know how to do it.
You may know how to do it, but you don't know how we do it.
And that's also understanding, when you go in, you've got to submit to the process. And go in agreement with, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn. I am more than capable. you wouldn't have been employed if you weren't capable.
Yes.
Now, are you in agreement that you are willing to learn the culture of that company?
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think about it, we looking at hiring sales reps across South Africa and all of that jazz. We did get CVs, actually. We ran the thing, but we got a bunch of CVs for people who said they were sales reps. And you may have been a sales rep. I'm not saying that you're not, but you don't do sales the way we do sales. There's a process that you're going to go through that's going to be completely and utterly different. And you've got to be able to submit to that. Or put your hand up and say, I don't want to do this. And that's okay.
And I think one of the challenges that we see in business is that often people are so desperate for money, they'll say that they do stuff and they have no idea how it is, instead of coming in and being honest.
Yeah. You're more than, well, at least with our organization, I feel like you're more than likely to succeed by actually just being honest and being like, I can't do that. Or I would like to learn how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Could you teach me? You have a better chance. But like you say, more people are actually just like, I need the job. So I'm just going to say, yes, I can do that. And now you have to run Excel spreadsheets and you've never seen Excel in your life. That's why I don't agree to do Excel spreadsheets. Because you're going to get it wrong. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I think my final thought would be just be aware of what are you going into agreement with.
And that is that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Please continue to leave your thoughts, comments, and feedback. This one was a lot more structured and to the point. Nicole kept on bringing us back whenever I wanted to go off and go for my tangents. But thank you guys for watching. We really do appreciate it. For those of you who are interested, we do have Ignite Your Sales happening on Wednesday the 14th at Corporate Conference Center, 8:30. It is a free event. You do not have to pay anything for it. We've also got Entrepreneur Hangouts happening in June, the 6th one of the year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We're already 6 months in. So if you guys are interested in joining us at Entrepreneur Hangout, it's not like your other networking breakfast. Actually, it's not a networking breakfast at all. It's a teaching breakfast. You'll come and you will learn, and you will be able to connect with real people, other entrepreneurs and business owners who are going through what you're going through or have been through where you've been through, you know? So join us. I think it's really beneficial. We know that last week was really awesome. Was it last week? It was last week. Last week was really awesome. The May Entrepreneur Hangout. So on the website, www.uncoveringgreatness.com/Entrepreneur Hangouts. And I think that's it. That's all the promos. We do have Sales Explosion coming up in June. Don't forget Sales Explosion. It is on the website. The only event, I believe, on the planet where you make money in the room.
Yep, that I know of.
That I know. That we don't know, yeah. That may be legally that we know of. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. Be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.